For the Southeast Arrow, I'm Patrick Buck. My next guest is a father of four, a 30-year school administrator and educator, and a very nice man, as far as I've known. So this is Dr. Brad Hodson. Dr. Hodson?
Hello. It's nice to be here. What a setup. My gosh, I
like to give
hope
you a
I
nice
can live
intro.
up to that. That's great.
I'd like to give you a nice intro.
Thank you.
So you don't come in flat, for sure. But you got a lot of personality. From what I've seen, you very nice, very charismatic.
Well, it comes naturally. I guess
There you go.
I'm fortunate that somewhere in that DNA is some outward confidence.
Awesome. I mean, those are good qualities for a university president to have, for sure. But anybody. So I'm glad to have you.
Thank you.
As we were talking before, you told me you were from a small place called Carl Junction.
That's right.
Now, after you graduated high school, you went to college in Joplin
Yes.
at Missouri Southern State University.
Yes, sir.
How was that?
It was great. You know, I chose Missouri Southern because I was a first-generation college student, grew up on a farm, not a lot of resources to go to a large flagship institution, and I don't know that I would have thrived at a large public institution. So the local university, at the time Missouri Southern State College, was 25 minutes away. I can remember my dad taking me over and participating in the tour with me, and coming from a high school where my graduating class had about 100 students in it to an institution at the time that had 5,000 students and many buildings was a little overwhelming, but I quickly assimilated and thrived there. One of the best things I did my first semester, I found that I was hanging around with a lot of my high school friends in college, and they're great people, and I still see them around today, but I realized that I needed to meet new people, and so I joined a fraternity. And suddenly I had classmates and friends from St. Louis to Kansas City, all the way north and south. And so that really transformed my college experience. I loved it, and really 4 years flew by for me at Missouri Southern. But no, I chose Missouri Southern as a local student because of access and affordability.
So you are you're a former student who understands kind of the benefit of a state school.
Absolutely, and the role that a regional public university plays for the people of that region and the workforce and the economy of that region. That's something I've come to appreciate acutely over the last 30 years. But you're right, it's based on my personal experience as an 18-year-old walking onto a college campus and seeing myself there.
Do you see, in the few students that you've met here at SEMO, do you see similarities between yourself and them?
I see, so I realize, having 4 young adult children, that their lifetime experience is vastly different than mine. And so I do see similarities. I really see similarities between Southeast Missouri and Southwest Missouri. I walk around SEMO's campus, and it looks very familiar to me based on where I've worked for the last 2 decades in Southwest Missouri and Southeast Kansas. So yes, that's one of the benefits of being selected to be the president at SEMO. It's very familiar to me.
Nice. Besides, the obvious benefits of taking any job or accepting any career path, why here and why now?
So when the opportunity became available and they publicized that SEMO needed a president, 2 things popped to my mind. One, SEMO has a phenomenal reputation statewide. It's very well regarded academically, and so I knew it was a high-performing institution that I would enjoy being a part of that team. Second, Southeast Missouri, Cape Girardeau specifically, is very similar in its economy, its workforce, its people to Southwest Missouri. So I'll give you a couple of examples. We're both in the corner of the state. We are both located on major interstate highways. Joplin is I-44 east-west, Cape is I-55 north-south. We both have 2 major medical centers, and we are the healthcare hub for our region. And so you can just extrapolate that out many times. Joplin and Cape Girardeau are very similar. So I felt a level of comfort coming to Southeast Missouri based on my experience in Southwest Missouri.
Okay. Speaking to you mentioned performance. You were selected because you exemplified that you might perform very well for this college. The Board of Governors said that you showed a strong ability to lead SEMO and that the presidency is a complex job that changes a lot, and it's drastically different now than it was a few years ago. What are some of those changes that you see in your path, that will make your job complex? Because there's easier times to be a president, for sure.
Yeah, and you could either look at anything as a challenge or as an opportunity. I'm just sort of a glass half full person by nature, and so even when things are rapidly changing, evolving, they're complex, and other folks would say how difficult it is, I try to see opportunity. I try to see how we can leverage what's in the moment for the long-term benefit of the institution. But to your point, the presidency at a public university has changed dramatically in the last 25 years. And I've seen that in my career. When I began working in higher ed, presidents were predominantly came from the faculty. They were viewed as the lead faculty member. They certainly had great depth of experience in academia. Now college presidents focus primarily on resource development. And so student recruitment, fundraising, governmental relations are all things that occupy presidents' time. And I'm just fortunate enough that I've spent the last 30 years in those areas, primarily fundraising, but I have experience in all three, and that the Board of Governors here at SEMO saw synergy between my background and the current needs for the university. And I'm just very grateful that they offered me this position and gave me this tremendous opportunity.
The Board of Governors highlights that you have experience in philanthropy and fundraising, that you could place an emphasis on enrollment as you have in the past. You have a strong financial acumen, and you are an external relationship builder. How do you come about these skills in your professional career? How do you become a person with a strong financial acumen who can build these relationships and fundraise the way you do?
So I think back to my first job in higher education. It was at Baker University, which is a small private institution in Baldwin City, Kansas, and it sounds about as big as it really is. And the job was advertised in the print edition of the Kansas City Star. There was no online edition in 1995. So you'd go to the want ads, you'd look up jobs in certain industries, and the job was advertised as development associate. And I didn't know what development was. But I had had such a great time in college that I knew I wanted to work on a college campus, and I knew I wanted to lead a college campus someday. But you have to take that first step, and I was in my 20s, had just graduated from the master's degree program, and wanted that first job. And so whatever I put on my resume, a woman named Pam Seibert gave me an interview, and a gentleman named Jerry Weekly was the vice president, and they interviewed me, and I quickly realized that it was a fundraising position. Well, I'd never worked in fundraising, but they had confidence in me, and so let's see where this leads. 30 years later, I've predominantly done fundraising for a career and loved it, loved every minute of it. And so for me, again, that's a door that just opened. I don't know why it opened, but it has led me to SEMO in 2025, and it's been a really fulfilling professional career. So I'm lucky that I got set on that path very early and have stuck with it, and here I am.
Okay. So many of us have different understandings of what it takes to run a public university, or what it takes to run anything, honestly. So when you say fundraising, a lot of people can only reference Girl Scout cookies and selling popcorn for school. What is fundraising in this sense?
Well, I will answer your question. I will tell you, when I first took the job at Baker University, my mom, I overheard her talking to one of her friends, and she said, Brad's working in fundraising. He's going to do bake sales and car washes. And so hopefully my mom has learned I do a little bit different type of fundraising since then. But you're right. I think folks envision the retail sales as fundraising. Fundraising is about relationship building. Mm-hmm. And it's about developing a rapport and a trust with individuals that they will invest some of their private resources with the organization you represent. And so when I sit down in someone's living room or I go to someone's office, my job is not to ask them for money right out of the gate. My job is to build a relationship with them, to build that trust and rapport, so that when I feel like it's the right time to say, the university has a need, we believe you have an interest in helping us fulfill that need, would you be interested in a philanthropic gift? They're ready and they trust and they're engaged. And so much of fundraising is not asking for money. Much of fundraising is relationship building, and I have a natural ability to talk to people, to build that rapport with them, that trust. And so I think I've been successful because talking comes natural, and folks will, after time, trust me if I've demonstrated I'm trustworthy, and we move forward with philanthropy when the time is right. It is a very long horizon enterprise. If the first time we met, I said to you, can you give me $25,000? You would be completely off-put by that. Now, as a future alumnus, you should be prepared that one of these days I'm going to come ask you for a gift, and so let's get that out there right now, but it's not going to be today. And so that relationship building is the most important part of fundraising. It's not the ask.
Okay.
So
Relationships are huge, especially in small towns, as you know. But this is a different kind of small town, familiar to you indeed, but a different small town than some because there's a small town inside of this small town that is the university.
yeah.
And as much as the university blends out with the community, it is indeed its own small community. How does building relationships with students and faculty and staff members, how does this factor into your day-to-day routine if fundraising is such a big part of your job?
So my job will naturally take me off campus a lot. I'll be in Jefferson City, I'll be visiting donors, I'll be helping recruit students. And so just by the nature of being focused on resource development and revenue, I will be off campus a lot, which means when I am on campus, I can't be in my office. I have to be out. I have to be engaging folks. And so that's as simple as being visible and available, walking through the university center, going to events on campus, making sure people understand that I'm approachable, that they can come up and engage with me on any topic, and that I want to have that interaction, but also purposefully building those on-campus relationships. Again, if you're a faculty member in mass communication, you're down here at the Russ Center, you're teaching your students, you're doing your day-to-day work, I have to come to you. You're not going to naturally say, I think I'm going to go see what the president's doing. And so I can't hang out in my office and believe that I'm going to build the depth of relationships on campus that I need with students, faculty, and staff. I have to be out there, visible, engaged, available, approachable. And so that takes effort, it takes time, but I'm committed to that. So I hope that when I am on campus, you won't see me in my office.
Okay.
Out of necessity, sometimes I'll have to be there, but I want to be out and engaged and visible. I want to meet people.
Of course. This university, as I've learned, is a fantastic place to meet people. We have a massive population of foreign exchange students and study abroad students that come here every year. This is a very interesting time for them as the political climate shifts, and some of these students don't know if they'll be able to get back home or get back here from home. That's a topic that you're sure to run into. Do you have any idea of how to address that?
Well, certainly letting the folks in Washington work through how they're going to approach visas is going to evolve over time. What I've tried to focus on are the students themselves. It has to be, to your point, scary to not know if you'll be able to continue your education. If you go home, can you get back? If you choose not to leave, you're not seeing your family, not seeing your home country. So caring for those students, being compassionate and making sure that their needs are met is job one. I have traveled internationally a lot to recruit students. It's always fun when I meet a student from South Korea or Japan or Nepal, and I can say, oh, I've been to your country, and there's a particular dish I had that I loved, and their eyes light up because there's that familiarity. Someone understands where I'm from, someone appreciates my culture, so I always try to relate to them. I also try to put myself in their shoes. As a 19-year-old, if someone had shipped me off around the world and said, here you go, you need to thrive in this new environment, I try to think about what that's like for them. And they certainly are adventurers. They're explorers in their own right. But they also need care and love and to know that someone's there watching out for them, and that's the university's responsibility.
Okay. You mentioned recruitment, which is another massive section of your time. How do you handle recruiting with, trying not to be in your office and being in Jefferson City? How can you recruit effectively to assist SEMO, especially looking down the barrel of the enrollment cliff?
Sure. So I always defer to the leadership in admissions to plug me in where they think I can do the most good. I'm not running admissions. I'm not setting the strategy. I may be involved in setting the goals and helping make sure they have the resources to accomplish those goals. But I look to the leadership in the admissions team to plug the president in where I can do the most good for them. And I trust them to do that. And so if they say, Brad, we need you in St. Louis next week, I'm going to do everything I can to make sure I'm in St. Louis and doing what they need me to do. I do think that the competition in higher education is more acute than it's ever been in our history. The presumption used to be, and you indicated you're a local resident, you grew up here, you would go to the local university. Well, you know very well the options you have available to you, not only online, but travel is much easier. Certainly a lot of schools have started these neighboring state tuition benefits where you get a discounted tuition rate if you're from a local state. SEMO has to respond to all that, has to be competitive, has to understand that landscape. And so working collaboratively with the leadership in admissions and finance to position ourselves from a price perspective, from a program offering perspective. It used to be you took pride in having a broad array of programs, that you had everything anyone could ever want. Well, we certainly still value those broad array of academic programs, but now it's about what differentiates us. Cybersecurity, computer science, aviation, all those programs that are new and evolving at the institution are differentiators. So if you're a student, you may not even be interested in any of those programs, but what you see is a vibrancy, an energy in the academic arena that draws you to the institution. You may end up majoring in accounting or teacher education or nursing or some other field, but that vibrancy attracts you. Or you may be someone that's always wanted to be a pilot, and you're like, I didn't know that Southeast Missouri State has an aviation program. I'm going to check that out. And then it becomes a function of admissions and marketing plugging into you. So that arena has become far more competitive, far more complex, far more data-driven than it ever has been before. And putting the resources, both human and financial, behind that will help to ensure that we have the students to keep this institution moving forward.
Okay. That's a great answer. I asked your predecessor, Dr. Carlos Vargas, the same question, and he had a phenomenal answer. So I'll have to ask you the same.
Well, the standards are really high now, so okay.
Of course. Looking down this enrollment cliff, is there a place in the future for vocational education at public institutions like SEMO?
So what's become really clear in Jefferson City in the last 5 years in particular is the blurring of those lines. There used to be very clear lines. Community colleges offered vocational programs. Four-year baccalaureate institutions offered workforce programs. The flagships would offer the medical, law, pharmaceutical. Those are all blurring now. And even in this last legislative session, we saw Missouri State have the ability now to offer doctoral programs that had previously been the sole prerogative of Mizzou. We now have a law in the books that allows community colleges with certain approval processes to offer four-year degrees. So there is this blurring. If there is an acute vocational need in the region that is not being met, that needs to be met, we certainly will do everything we can to respond to that need. We were established in 1873 to meet the workforce needs of the region. I don't want to say that we're going to jump into vocational education, but I also would never say that we would ignore an acute need that is being unmet. We have great partners in the community colleges, particularly Mineral Area and Three Rivers. I have no doubt that if they saw a workforce need here in the vocational arena, they would move to fill it. And if we could partner with them and offer a multi-year dual degree program where maybe they got a 2-year degree in the vocational track, but it led them to a 4-year degree that would help them advance in their career, that's absolutely where we plug in. So I would be cautious to say we would start offering vocational programs, because even with these blurred lines, I believe that there still are defined areas of work for 2-year, 4-year, and graduate degrees in the state, but it's all about partnerships again. And so working between the employer, the 2-year and the 4-year to see how we can all collaborate to meet the need would be my first step.
Okay. I've never...
Was that as good an answer as my predecessor?
That was an incredible answer.
Very good. I just want to make sure I'm keeping pace here.
Absolutely on par. kind of makes me wonder, what are the types of industry needs that go regionally that you've seen create these needs?
Well, so I come from an institution, Missouri Southern, that is very immersed in health sciences.
Okay.
Missouri Southern has more health science program than any other public university in the state. And so when we saw a need for floor nurses, frontline floor nurses, we had hospital administrators telling us that patient care was suffering because they didn't have enough nurses to man the floors. Okay, that's something we can do something about. We had to work through the State Board of Nursing, which they were very, very good to work with, but it was a multi-year process to expand our cohort.
Okay.
The number of nurses you can educate is dictated by the State Board of Nursing. And again, when we showed them the need, we showed them our capacity, not only with facilities and staffing, but with our academic programs to address that. They allowed us to increase our cohort by 15 students a year. Well, that's 15 more nurses we're putting out on the floor every single year. It didn't solve the problem, but it certainly helped as a first step. And again, working with the 2 years, they have RN programs, we have BSN programs to work collaboratively together. One of the things that I know SEMO has that Missouri Southern's thinking about is a Master's of Science in Nursing. Well, you might ask, why do you need a master's degree to be a floor nurse? Well, you don't, but if you're going to teach at the 2-year or 4-year institution, you have to have a master's degree. So what we're doing is increasing the capacity of faculty to educate more nurses to meet the workforce needs. So you have to look at the continuum from education to workforce all the way across and see how a school like SEMO can plug in and can make a difference. So that's Missouri Southern. I haven't been at SEMO long enough to know our strengths and weaknesses and where we can plug in, but I'm certainly going to have lots of conversations on campus and off to learn those nuances so when opportunities present themselves, we're ready.
This type of high order computation that you go through to make these decisions and to filter your relationships, it seems tiring. Like it seems like it would burn out any normal person. Does it come natural to you?
It's a puzzle.
Okay.
That's the fun part. It's a puzzle. You have all these pieces. You have the employers, you have the students themselves, you have the faculty, the staff, the academic programs, and you just have to put the puzzle together in a way that everyone can agree to, because in higher education we work in a shared governance environment. Everyone has an opportunity for input. Everyone has an opportunity to talk about how they'd like to see something evolve. You go through all that. You try to go through it in a timely manner. Mm-hmm. You know, if there's a workforce need today, to say to one of the local hospitals, you know, we might be able to help you in 5 to 7 years, that doesn't work. Now, we can't help you tomorrow, but we can move it along in a way that you can see there's going to be a payout in more nurses, just to follow that example. But it's a puzzle. You just have to put all the pieces together, and it's funny, I don't like puzzles like as a evening activity,
right?
But I love puzzles at a university and putting all the pieces and opportunities and funding and personnel together in a way that you go, look at that, look what we accomplished.
Okay.
So,
what is, just coming in without knowing your full agenda just yet, what are some things that you would like to see accomplished in your tenure at SEMO?
So one of the first things, and this came out in the search process, it came out from the board, SEMO's current strategic plan sunset on June 30th. And so there is a need to launch a new strategic planning process. And again, that will involve everyone inside and outside the institution. But the goal would be in 1 year, July 1st of 2026, to launch a new strategic plan, to implement a new strategic plan. And that would be based on an updated vision for the institution, updated goals and priorities that will help inform how we marshal our human and financial resources to best serve the region, best serve the students. And so that is sort of priority number one, in addition to student recruitment and philanthropy and governmental relations and building relationships in the community and on campus. That strategic plan will be our roadmap for the next 3 years, 5 years, to help guide decision making. And so that is one of the first things out of the gate.
In order to get down the road on any of your goals, especially with Jefferson City, what are some of the offices and who are some of the individuals that a university president has to come in contact with to effectively go about doing their job?
On campus or off?
in Jefferson City?
Well, so certainly the local legislative delegation is key, and building those relationships throughout the year, not just when they're in Jeff City. I've said before that if you just pop your head in the middle of the session and say, hey, I need to talk to you about Senate Bill, I'm just going to make up a number, 18, okay, come in, but I don't know you, I don't trust you maybe, so building those relationships outside the session where they know that you genuinely care about them, you care about their constituents, and when you do come to their office in March and they're busy and you're competing with all the other folks there to advocate for their cause, they'll stop and listen because they know you. Mm-hmm. So you work with a wide variety of offices in both chambers of the General Assembly and the executive branch, from the governor's office to the Department of Higher Education and Workforce Development. There's a lot of people who play a role in effective governmental relations, and that's just the state part of it. Mm-hmm. You have federal, you have local, city, county, and so there are a lot of moving pieces, but again, if you look at it as a puzzle, and you build those relationships and you leverage them strategically over time to serve the institution, to serve the students, to serve the region, that's really exciting.
Okay. Locally, not at the governmental level, but at the personal level, a lot of residents, a great deal of residents, are unfamiliar with what fiscal involvement the city has with the university. And of course, that's also halfway a question for the city.
Sure.
But one of our issues in town is that we have old water mains. Mm-hmm. Those water mains tend to break, especially during intense weather shifts. And one comment that you hear frequently is that if the city didn't constantly give money to the university, then we would be able to fix these sorts of issues. How can the university kind of communicate more clearly what they're doing and why they're receiving what they're receiving, or if they are? How does the university close the gap between civilian understanding and university action?
So just like the university, a city, and maybe even more so, is dealing with a variety of funding sources. And each of those funding sources comes with its own restrictions. Some are available for general operations, some are available solely for economic development, and others have different restrictions. And so we talk about putting a puzzle together. The city council, the mayor, the city manager are putting a very complicated puzzle together from a funding perspective. I've worked with a variety of city governments over my career that make investments in higher education because of economic development. They see the university as a driver, one of many drivers, but a key driver of the city's economic prosperity. And so investments in higher education are not made at the expense of other things, because oftentimes you can't use that money to fix the water main or to pay police and fire pensions, or that's from Joplin. I mean, all of the typical pressures, but you strategically put that puzzle together to make an investment in higher education because there will be a payout, there will be a return. Student population will grow, visitor traffic will grow, sales tax revenue from restaurants and gas stations and hotels will grow. So it's difficult for folks that have not maybe had to put those puzzles together to see how the funding that's used as an investment in economic development through the university cannot be used to solve some of the city's most pressing problems. I have met a lot of city council members, a lot of mayors, a lot of city managers in my career, and every single one of them was dedicated to serving the needs of the city, the community, the citizens. And so I trust that if they could use the funds that they've invested in the city to solve a pressing issue like the water main break, they would do so, because I see how critical that is to the future and the current status of the city. But when they can't spend that money on a pressing need, by law, by covenant, by restriction, investing it in the university, investing it in other economic development mechanisms will pay long-term benefits that will generate general operational revenue that can better address things like water mains, electrical grids, police and fire pensions, potholes, you go down the list. So it's difficult for folks to understand the staging of those fundings and the restrictions and how you look long-term and short-term simultaneously. That's difficult, but that's the reality of universities, city governments, county governments. It is a very complicated enterprise that's difficult to understand from the outside.
Understandable.
But we have to do a better job of telling our story. That was your point as well. We have to be arm in arm with the city in communicating the why. No one's going to agree 100% of the time, and that's why we elect city council members, is so that they can make choices on our behalf. And so better communicating the why is probably incumbent upon both the city and the university.
Have you been familiarized with the local city government yet? I know you're still fresh.
I have met the mayor on a couple of occasions, and certainly met the city manager and one or two members of council, but no, I've not met them as a group. One of my first activities the second week I'm here is to go to a city council meeting and to make their acquaintance and have some time. But again, showing up at one city council meeting saying, "Hi, I'm Brad Hodson," is the first step of a 1,000-step journey. And so it's sitting down for coffee with city council members individually, with the city manager and the mayor, listening to them, having that free flow of conversation. They have my cell number, I have theirs. We talk constantly about how we can help each other. That's the long-term relationship. It's not the, "Hi, I'm Brad Hodson, it's nice to be here." That's the first step.
Are there, you mentioned in your previous answer, investments, and it made me think of on-campus investments. You've at least seen campus and gotten to go around. Are there any investments that you've seen or that you've thought of that would be nice to see come to fruition?
Yes, and certainly any public university in the state has deferred maintenance needs, and sometimes those are evident, oftentimes they're not evident, they're hidden because they're infrastructure needs. I have multiple sessions set up with the facility management team. I want to see every building. I want to see in the roof and the attic. Don't take me in the lobby and go, "Isn't this lovely?" And then we walk out. I want to go see where things have needs, because we will have to make some strategic choices on how we spend our deferred maintenance dollars. And sometimes we ask the state to help us with those dollars. Sometimes the state can help, sometimes they can't. But the ultimate responsibility is ours to make sure that our facilities reflect the quality of our academic programs, reflect our commitment to students and to the community. And that's difficult. That is a multi-million dollar annual enterprise to just keep pace, let alone make progress. And so that also feeds into when we build new buildings. We're building a new building at Missouri Southern. I know there's a health sciences building coming online here. There's often criticism of, why are we building a new building when we can't take care of the facilities we have? Because we have to keep evolving as an institution to reflect the high quality of our academic programs in those modern facilities. And does it mean that the folks who work in a building that is struggling are going to be any more satisfied? No, but it's a two-track process. We have to take care of what we've got, but we have to continue to build for the future. And the funding, the financing of that is a key part of the executive team's responsibility.
Okay. I've asked you some humdingers. Here's one I love asking. Simple question. What'd you have for breakfast this morning?
So I am not a breakfast person. I didn't have anything for breakfast. Now,
this is natural?
It's natural. Food does not taste good to me before about 10 a.m. Now, I didn't exercise this morning because I stayed up late unpacking, but when I exercise in the morning, often I'll have a protein shake. Banana cream is my favorite flavor for a protein shake, and if you throw a little banana in there, it helps zhuzh up that banana taste. Yes. But I didn't eat breakfast this morning. Now, I'll tell you, my wife and I, Sue, my wife's name is Sue, we visited the farmer's market downtown Cape Girardeau on Saturday, and I had a biscuit with sausage, egg, and cheese that was phenomenal.
Really?
And she had the biscuits and gravy. So, but that was about 9 or 10 in the morning. That's when food starts to taste good. If you laid out a full breakfast in front of me at 6 a.m., it just doesn't taste good. And that was true when I was a kid. I can remember my mom and I having knockdown, drag-out fights about a bowl of cereal all through elementary school. And so I don't know what it is, but I'm just not a breakfast guy.
Well, okay. In that case, I think we'll let you get to lunch because
I'm a lunch guy. I can eat lunch, yeah.
You've done an amazing job. You've been more than gracious in answering your questions, and I think I'm very excited, and so are so many other people, to see what you can do and the way that you add to our community and our general fabric, because SEMO is an awesome, strong environment. So is Cape Girardeau, and the two lean on each other, and they are commingled entirely. So we're very excited to see the way that you act and the way that you do, and I'm excited. at the very
Well,
least.
thank you. And for me, the win will be if we talk again in 2 or 3 years and I have met your expectations. That will
course.
please me immensely. So thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Of course. Thank you. Thank you for viewing, and we will see you next time.